Thank you for connecting again, Katrina. We chatted with you and Maria Carolli not too long ago.
But thank you for having me back. I'm excited to continue our chat.
Well, so actually, I didn't get to ask last time. Your Italian, so where does the name Lolicato come from?
Oh, the name Lolicato has been its origins are contentious in my family. We don't quite know. We have a feeling. Well, to start off with, it's of my nonno's last name. So he's from the Siracusa region of Sicily, a small
Okay.
town called Cassero, Nifella, in that area there. So there's like many Italians, you have the story of being of nobility, which is usually an indication that it's actually a foundling last name.
Yes.
Um, there's also the story of a queen or coming and bestowing people with this name as well, but we don't know. But what I can tell you for sure is if you ever meet another Lolicato in Australia, they are either my first, second, third cousin, my aunties, uncles. We are all related. So,
Oh,
and we all actually keep in contact. So there's a few branches of us, and we do the reunion every few years. So we know each other quite well.
oh, very, very nice. So
Yeah,
recent origins from Sicily. Did you?
from
Yeah,
Sicily. Yeah.
beautiful.
But my mum's Abruzzese
Uh-huh.
through and through, and my nonna on my dad's side was a Demese. So she's from Calabria, from a small town called Vadapordio.
Okay. And where in Abruzzo is the mum's family from?
Ah, the L'Aquila side. So in a valley, in a tiny, tiny little hamlet called Carapelle Calvisio. And actually, it's one of the smallest villages in Italy. So there's only 34 residents there now.
Wow.
And I can tell you that most of them came to Melbourne.
Ah,
so, so we grew up with a huge Abruzzese community here in Melbourne when we were growing up, which is fantastic.
okay. Sicilia, Calabria, and Abruzzo. All right. Now, we didn't get to talk too much about your professional background and some of the interesting work you do. You've got a website, and the you mentioned when we were interacting about these things about grief, elders preparing for eulogies and things like that. Where would you like to start?
Oh goodness! I guess I'll start with my would you like to know a little bit about how I came to be
Right.
doing
Yes.
this kind of
Yes.
work? So, I'm now a remedial massage therapist and
Hmm.
an end of life support worker,
Yeah.
working in aged care predominantly. I came to this in a long and winding road, Antonio. So I started off as a massage therapist as a young thing in my early 20s. And when I was about 27, I thought, oh, I should go back to uni. And I went back to uni and I studied archaeology because I'd always loved
Oh,
archives and history and all that stuff. Soon I realized I loved living histories and oral histories more, and I completed a master's of cultural heritage. So, what I do now, I feel blends my interest in health and healthcare, as well as my interest in human stories and the reverence I think we should have for this conundrum as humans of being mortal beings, and I bring them together in my support work. So, as an end of life carer, I look after people from when they're well still, so elder but well, right through to when they're living with illness and into perhaps living with a life limiting illness and then going into active dying and then after death and bereavement. So, what I like to do is share my insight, I guess, for what I've learned from the massage, from the touch therapy, I guess, the therapeutic care and the historical, and I blend them together in a suite of services that I hope provide comfort, consolidation, and connection for people as they get towards the end of their mortal lives.
You mentioned active dying just then.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So active dying is those few days just before passing. So it's when you'll see changes in senses, in sensorial experience, changes in lucidity. You know, somebody might be dozing a lot or even in a coma. Um, Somebody will start winding down, essentially, breathing changes. And even in the last few hours or so, if anybody's ever kept vigil, you'll see that there's a whole lot of physiological changes that occur in those moments or hours leading up to final passing. So it's that act of dying.
Yeah, well, my father passed away just under a year ago, and in the last couple of days, last couple of times I was visiting him in hospital, I gave him my hand to hold, and I wanted to take away. He wouldn't let go. He was holding tight when he still had some strength. And then afterwards, he would say, "Dammi la mano." He wanted to feel touch.
Absolutely. And that small gesture of just holding somebody's hand, I've found, so particularly with dementia patients and people
Mm.
kind of coming in and out of lucidity or cognitive strengths, I guess, um, is an enormous gesture of comfort. It also grounds people, and it's a co-regulation. So what happens is actually when you're holding somebody's hand, your heartbeats slow down together.
Uh-huh.
You also, as a carer, feel calmer if you give yourself a moment to just be purely present in that exchange as well. So it's a beautiful reciprocal moment. I'm not sure if you felt that. If
Yes.
holding his hand wasn't just a service to him, it was also feeling his energy back as well. And so it brings two people together, brings them back in sync.
In fact, that's what the doctors were talking about, trying to make the person feel calm. So
Mm.
that touch, maybe hearing the voice of a loved one.
Yeah. So when we're talking about comfort, that's exactly what we're talking about. So that first pillar of care that we try in terms of creating an environment for somebody who might be experiencing anxiety or depression if they're still living well, who is approaching those final moments. So we can think about sound in terms of music or calming noises. We can think about familiar scents or calming scents. We can think about having um, important objects in the room with people. Um, Important, usually what I find most often is somebody wants to bring their favorite blanket, they've got a favorite cushion, and it just makes them feel like they're at home, as well as some people are comfortable with photos. For other people, it's a bit too much towards the end to be reflecting at that late stage. But it is about the rosary beads, if that's what people want to do. It's about bringing in all those small elements that create a calming environment and touch the senses in a way that isn't overstimulating. Because while senses are leaving the body, kind of in a certain way, it also is very easy to become overstimulated
Mm.
and agitated at the same time. So maintaining that calm environment is really important in those last days and moments, but right through somebody's care, for months beforehand, even.
And do you have experiences maybe you can share around that?
Around keeping vigil, you mean? Or
Yes, yeah,
do you
or,
mean,
or other
or do you
relevance.
mean like what would you like to hear? Or would you like to hear perhaps some of my I've actually, as I mentioned before, I've been collecting some of the thoughts and emotions of some of my elder clients,
Yes.
given me permission to actually share how they're feeling with
Mm.
you on air. These clients aren't in the stage of active dying. They're elders in their late 80s and early 90s, and they have a lot to say, Antonio. So, and I just think maybe that might help us feel a little bit of empathy for what they're experiencing
Yeah.
when they're at home. How are you feeling? Are you feeling up for a little bit of show and tell for that?
Yes, yes.
So, okay, so all these clients are Italian. So just so you know. So we have Antoinette, so she's 89. And she says, it's hard to be old. I miss my mother still, and she's been dead for 60 years. She's talking about her family, visit once a week, but I sit at home all day waiting for nothing. Life has passed by so quickly, and now I'm old. I'm nothing now. That's what she said.
But
In
life has passed away so quickly. I remember my grandfather once said that it's just gone. I
November.
mean, he died well, at that stage. He was 85. He said, yeah, it passed in a click of the fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we have Barbara, and she swears, I won't swear on air, but she says, my depression has effed me up. Um, why couldn't God take me instead of my granddaughter? Her granddaughter died of cancer.
Mm.
I'm useless, she says. So this idea of grieving, not just for people who have come before them, but a lot of elders, if you get to live to 85, 90, you've probably buried, you know, nephews, nieces, grandchildren, and children as well. And the grief there is enormous. This is Kate. I worked hard and now I live in so much pain all over my body. They used to make us clean the hospital on our hands and knees. Maria says, I get so lonely. I start thinking about my husband and son, and I just want to smoke and sit and die. Like this is, you know, and she does smoke quite a bit, Maria. But this is this thing of grief and sitting and waiting. And for us, while we might think, well, we've got busy lives and schedules and we're visiting the people that we love once a week, twice a week, even once every couple of days, it is an hour or two in what is an otherwise really long stretch of time. And that time is time to think and not do the things that used to make them feel connected to community, like visiting their friends or going to church or going to the shops and, things that they can no longer do for themselves. So the weight is what I find really plays on our elders and sick elders in particular. Um,
Yeah. So these are some very interesting comments. I like the one that said, the family comes to visit once a week, but the rest of the time she's there thinking, as you said, thinking, reflecting. But these people are still well and not.
No, well, this is the thing with Italian Australians. So, in particular, what we have in our community is we might be living the same age as Australian born people. So, we might have that same standard age, 85, 82. However, we have in our community a much longer and more extended time of illness before passing. So
Okay.
we have chronic illnesses, inflammatory diseases, diabetes, heart problems. These things, dementia, things start earlier. So people are living in ill health for longer in the Italian community, and in fact across all European diasporic communities than our Anglo-Australian counterparts.
Oh,
And I've seen this in practice as well. I have a couple of 90-plus-year-old Anglo-Australian clients who can not only get on and off a massage table, but leap on and off a massage table. And they can go out. The inflammation, the ill health is generally feels to be a lot more stable, less debilitating. But these are things that we need to research more thoroughly in our
so
community.
that's an important challenge for the medical sciences. Yes, we're living longer, but we should be living well rather than living a lot
Exactly.
in a disease or in pain or in discomfort.
And as we know that pain and discomfort then creates and generates anxiety and depression as well. It limits quality of life. It limits capacity to rectify the quality of life that you're experiencing. So it becomes a spiral. And I've seen that a lot in my work. And also it becomes a treadmill of medical intervention, constantly seeing doctors, going to appointments. As carers, I'm sure your listeners in the sandwich generation would know about all these appointments. This becomes how their life is scheduled and based, yes, our elders. And what also happens too is that when they go to the doctors, they often don't, unfortunately, get the validation that they need as well. So I have some quotes there as well.
Okay.
Where they'll say things like, Shirley Internet said, I had swelling in my legs and the doctor said it was nothing. I kept going back, but the swelling eventually went to my heart. The doctor just told me I was old. You know, that thing. I feel pins and needles everywhere and the doctor just tells me I'm old. So, yes, that might be true medically. There might be nothing that we can do clinically to help people's pain or what people are experiencing. But just that comment, it's because you're old. You know, what does that mean when we're not doing anything to try and help people feel at least that they can live with their pain, you know, and with their discomfort? And what I've found over time is that what we have is like a cacophony of factors that then add to this feeling of living not just in ill health, but also unhappily in a way that is unfulfilled. So you have unresolved relationships, isolation, a loss of identity. You know, I used to have friends. I used to be a good worker. I used to be an artist. I used to make dresses. Now I don't do anything. Fear of being forgotten is a big one. Disconnection to culture, disconnection to feeling like their life is meaningful.
Yeah.
Because in our society too, once you stop working, you also lose a lot of your social value. So, and here we have one of my clients said that she feels like being an older person is actually like she feels like that's how people can make money from her. That they're having all these services coming in, service providers, you know, that is now her become her value, like a commodity, you know. Yes, that can be, again, services need to be provided for financially, but that can't be somebody's only value, you know.
Okay, so this person was saying that the value they provide is to have to pay for the jobs of the people who come to help. Yeah.
Well, what she's saying here, I worked hard and now my body is full of inflammation. Every bone in my body hurts. I didn't ask the government for anything when I was young and they wouldn't give us anything either. And now they give us these packages. We are so lucky. But too many people in the aged care system take money for nothing. I'm just a way to make money. They don't really care. They don't answer my calls. That idea of just not being heard, you know.
Yeah.
So, of course, this isn't across the board and this isn't everybody, but there is an underbelly here where people are feeling like they're not being heard and listened to. And I do believe that it comes from the lack of non-clinical support. There's a lot of clinical support in these packages, but what is missing is the emotional support. Again, the ways that we can help families and carers and our elders feel comfort to consolidate their lives and also to find those connections in the social, the spiritual, the environment as well.
So just to be clear, that clinical support is things like the doctors, the nurses, they come and look at your wounds and your sores.
Absolutely. There's hard
Check your
work and
blood.
love. Yeah.
take your bloods every few weeks. But it's the non-clinical stuff that you're talking about is also important. So some social interactions, having someone to speak to or listen to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And a lot of memory work as well. And by memory work, I don't mean actually like it to be laborious, but that idea of connecting their life, consolidating life experience, and in some ways creating a narrative of their own lives and where people fit. As an oral historian, this is one of my favorite things to do as an end of life support worker. Consolidating a life in a way that somebody can feel like they're more than just the hard work they did and the mum or dad that they were, or that all the complexity of somebody's experience, personality, flaws as well as strengths are acknowledged in a way that they feel like the world understands them before they go.
yeah. Yeah.
Not
So
just as
you mentioned
area.
memories. Memory, that's interesting. So memory is the person's life story. It is how we remember them after they've passed.
Absolutely.
How do you have any tips on how to
Oh,
cope with
I
that?
have so many tips. So to begin with, the same approach the same three factors that I think are important for caring with our elders, this idea of comfort, consolidation, and connection, is why we do this memory work, why we honor our elders and our ancestors as well, right? It's if we think about it in terms of preservation and in terms of doing it so the kids know, then it becomes an obligation and we don't connect to the emotions of the experience. We're just replicating actions. So if we think about it like we're going to honor somebody's life or our um, ancestral homeland or traditions because it connects us, it comforts us, and it consolidates our place in time and space. It makes us feel like we've got a spot for us, in this human story. Then we can kind of start to understand that actually this can be quite a fun and creative process. So, my advice would be do not wait for the big book. Okay, everybody wants to write the big book, and that is fantastic. And some of us get to do it. But at the end of the day, they can be quite burdensome. They can be expensive to publish. They can be easily put off to later, and you can procrastinate and think about it for years. There's also a sense that you don't have everything. You will never have everything. So to wait for the big book only is sometimes almost detrimental. You don't have to wait to do this kind of memory and honoring work. So instead, what I would suggest is that you start with really small things every day and try and build moments and opportunities in your home for reflection, comfort, consolidation, and connection. So it can be as little as my sister made fridge magnets of some family photos and gave them to us for Christmas. So little moments. So every time you open the fridge door, you see your people, and you can just have a little think. If your family was into the gardening, the veggie patch, or if somebody had a favorite flower, you don't have to feel the pressure of replicating the half acre or quarter acre of veggie patch out the back. Have a little moment in your garden and create just a little memorial area which my daughter did, just put a little park bench, a few of whoever you're remembering's favorite flowers, and you can have a minute. You could think about just being creative as well. So a lot of people don't have expensive or financially valuable objects, but in every museum, if you go to the Immigration Museum in Adelaide, or if you go to Museo Italiano in Melbourne, they have everyday objects, cafeteras, they have baptismal gowns, things we used. What makes them special is that we've attached a meaning to them and we've given them reverence by putting them on display. So don't just have them in a drawer somewhere for somebody to clean out.
Yeah,
Put it on display and have it there for you to see and enjoy and think about. So, and if you want, which I've done, you can write a description on the back of those objects, and in the frame so that your next generation will know. Another good idea that I love is a picture storybook.
Oh,
So
yes.
rather than a big, thick book, a picture storybook, consider it being in not only English and not only Italian, but also maybe your regional dialect as well, your home and ancestral language. Get the kids to illustrate it or use your family photos. And that is something that not only can get passed on from child to child, but kids can read it. It's an intergenerational opportunity. So collaborate as much as you can, involve other family members, and do not hoard your family's experience. Do not be a gatekeeper. Create something new if you don't have anything old. Get some plant rubbings or just make something new. If you want to replicate the traditions, do it. And also do it your way. A lot of people I've heard say, oh, I want to have a prayer table, but I don't think it fits or suits the style of my house. Make it suit the style of your house. Make it suit your personality. Traditions and memories are made to be molded, not duplicated across time. So have fun. Have fun with it. And enjoy. I've just got some objects here just to show you. So this is I've just brought this in from the garden, but my sister pinched some succulents from my nonna's front yard and gave us a pot for I think Mother's Day. My grandfather was a painter. We've framed his, just at home. So we framed and I've created like a gallery wall of his paintings. As an example of a picture storybook, I have Christina Neri's Beautiful for Love. Christina Neri is Ascolta, is a woman, but she's also the president of the Sicilian Arts Collective of Australia that we have in Melbourne. And she's created a story about where she's from in Salina. And it is gorgeous. It encapsulates a lot of what I'm talking about here, subtle reminders of culture, but also reframing the garden as an act of love and care, not as just as hard work.
Yes. Well, actually, as you mentioned Ascolta, and I have to move on. We've got the next guest in a second. How does any of this flow into your Ascolta work?
It all flows into my Ascolta work. It all, and I've got them here. So, the other week we had that event for the Heritage Week event.
Mm-hmm.
And we asked our audiences, so we had a live kind of poetry reading and short story reading in a bar in Melbourne, in the Brunswick Green. And we started with Teresa Capocol's Scola Pasta. Scola Pasta that her mum had given her.
Yes,
and we
yes.
used that as our timekeeping object, but also as our round of applause object. So we were reframing it, we were bringing it out in the open. She was able to share the story of why that object was so important. And that's where the memory is maintained, in the sharing. Mostly it'll be from passing on stories. The objects, the books, the pictures, these just remind us to keep talking.
Yes, well, reminding us to keep talking, that's important. So we're talking about these people, keep them in our mind and our memories. Okay, well, I'll say again, thank you to Katrina Lolicato for having come onto Radio Italia Adelaide again. And that sounds like amazing work that you're doing, and that you, with the help you provide to your clients, but also to see how you enact it in your own family.
Oh, absolutely. Can I just quickly just refer people on to Palliative Care Australia and the state branches if they need? Or
what was that? I just didn't quite get. Who do you want to refer to?
Oh, no. So I just wanted to, if anybody would like some immediate assistance with caring for the elders. So we've got Palliative Care Australia, and state branches of that. We have HELD, HELD, which is a holistic end of life carers network. And we also have Preparing the Way, sorry. which is a network of end-of-life doulas as well. And every municipality has a carers network. So if you are looking for some help as a carer, reach out to your local LGA, your local home
Okay.
suburb or town. On their website, there will be a carers network and they will give you a wealth of resources.
Cool. Okay. Palliative Care Australia, held, local council all have networks of carers, which is very, very important because it is, it can be taxing and you need to organise for it. I think that's a problem. People don't organise and not prepared. Well, again, thank you very much, Katrina, and that's amazing work you do.
Thanks for having me.